I'm so proud to be from this city. You know, they say if Kamala wins, then the whole country will be like Detroit. Okay? Proud like Detroit. Resilient like Detroit.
So, Shelly, do you want the country to be like Detroit?
No, I don't. And unfortunately, for us, for Baltimore, and as far as crime, I looked up a little bit of stats. So as far as crime, Baltimore is higher as far as the crime rate per 100,000 people than Detroit. Detroit's population is about 635,000, give or take. Their education, this is from Michigan.gov, not Michigan.com, not Michigan.blog, but Michigan.gov says that Detroit's urban schools are the worst in the nation.
Yeah, I don't agree with Lizzo on most things. What she said right there was spot on. They are trying to make America like Detroit, and if you want it like Maryland, like California, and all of these leftist cities and states within the country. Guys, we are here in Maryland. Many of us are here in Baltimore, Maryland. You don't want this. We're telling you from experience. They are running our state and the city into the gutter, specifically with our rights. You know, Maryland just had a case that went viral, should go viral, about a couple. It was a Black couple actually living in PG County. So it's a suburb of Maryland, and they got their CPS, Child Protective Services, was called on them to take their son because they would not affirm his what they were told. They would not affirm him or his new biology or whatever.
Right.
You know, this is real. This is real. And we've talked about this before.
We talked about this, and we said at the time, I think we did a couple episodes where we talked about this, how CPS, the government, representatives in conjunction or in cahoots with hospitals are literally taking children.
What's your name?
My name's Clementine.
Nice to meet you.
I've actually seen your stuff online, and I'm a huge fan. I was on puberty blockers. I started when I was 12, and I was on testosterone from 14 to 17, and I got top surgery at 17. Totally messed my life up. So I just want to say you're doing a good thing.
Wow.
I can't believe people disagree with you on this. As a former child transitioner, I'm just appalled that people have anything to question you about. So I salute you.
I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. I'm glad you are through it now. Thank you so much for speaking up. That's extremely valuable because a lot of people are afraid to.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we have a little conversation about it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, come on in this way just a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hi.
So, your name again?
My name's Clementine.
Clementine. So Clementine went on puberty blockers at what age?
12.
And you detransitioned at?
I detransitioned earlier this year, actually, but I had been going off testosterone since about 17 because it gave me psychosis.
When did they put you on testosterone?
I was 13.
Wow. And when did you have a double mastectomy?
I had a double mastectomy at 14. I'm currently going through the process of getting reconstructive surgery, and it was harder to get that approved. I actually wasn't able to get it approved by my insurance.
Right.
But it was much harder to get surgery for that than it was to actually get the original top surgery procedure. For
everyone watching this who says this isn't happening, well, it happened to Clementine. At 14, a double mastectomy, puberty blockers at 12, testosterone at 13. How old are you now?
I'm 20 now. I just turned 20.
Have you ever talked to anyone about suing?
I can't disclose what's going on, but yeah, it's...
Okay, because I'm here to help you find someone if you
do.
need someone.
Yeah, I've spoken... Do you know Campbell Miller Payne?
I do.
I've talked to them a bunch.
Fantastic. So, Campbell Miller Payne is a law firm, 4 dads in Texas, who all left their previous law firms and started a new one just to sue for kids and young people like Clementine who've been harmed by this madness. And these are great guys. They could have done anything to make a bunch of money, but they started a law firm. They left all their previous firms. They have 18 kids between them, and they're going to cause a lot of waves. I know some good lawsuits coming too, which we aren't allowed to announce yet.
Yeah, I really hope so.
That's one of the way out of this mess we've gotten into.
I don't know how a child could consent to the loss of their fertility.
Yeah.
Children can't conceptualize that, and I think people don't understand that.
So what got you into this in the first place?
I was sexually abused as a child, and that was totally ignored, but I started having a lot of negative feelings about my body around puberty, and I was egged on by some guidance counselors that I might be transgender, and I later decided that I was really a boy and my life would be so much easier because of all this abuse that I had experienced because of being a woman, and I totally just rejected womanhood because I thought that all that it meant for me was pain. Yeah, that's kind of how I got there, but
and what got
getting
you
out of it, getting out of it was a really difficult process for me, but mostly it was just getting the right therapy. I went to DBT therapy, and we never discussed my gender. We only discussed my sexual abuse. And after I dealt with that, I realized I didn't want to do this anymore, and the loss of my fertility and my body just started to really sink in. And I realized, like, oh my God, I've built this entire persona around misogyny.
Do you know for sure that you've lost your fertility?
I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but
you were on
I'm not the
testosterone
most
for
helpful.
4
I never
years.
went through female puberty, so yeah.
Right. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for speaking up.
Yeah,
It's extremely
thank you for
brave.
speaking to me.
It's extremely powerful. I'm so sorry what was done to you, but this is going to help other people not
I'm so glad
to
you're
fall
doing
down
what
this
you're
rabbit
doing.
hole.
Keep going.
One last question, and just come in a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Before you started on the puberty blockers, you've just shared with me this sexual abuse that happened to you before you started on those.
Yeah.
Did anyone ask you about that?
No, not was that brought up once during the meeting. I was only asked, do I like hanging out with boys? Do I get fit in better with boys? What kind of things am I into? Just really surface level questions. And I was prescribed puberty blockers 30 minutes into my appointment after being out for 4 months.
First appointment?
Yes.
With?
Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy at Los Angeles Children's Hospital.
Johanna Olson Kennedy. I've talked a lot about her, and I'm going to put more about her underneath this video. She's running the busiest gender clinic in the country at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. She received a grant from the NIH a few years ago for $5.7 million, and part of that grant application, she asked for approval to give opposite-sex hormones to kids as young as 8 years old.
Yeah,
she is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, gender ghoul in the United States of America. Did she talk to your parents?
She did, and she told them the same thing that she tells everybody, that I was deeply suicidal, and that if they didn't let me transition, I would be at high risk for suicide. And I only attempted to kill myself after I transitioned.
So she convinced them that they had two options, a dead daughter or a live son.
Yes.
Did she even use those words?
She did use those exact words.
Wow. Give me a hug.
Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you for talking to me.
I know we talked about it. We said it's coming to a city near you.
Absolutely. And specifically, as I mentioned, this is PG County here in Maryland, became one of the first child welfare programs in the country. It's called PG County's Department of Social Services with an Affirm unit. It's a program that rejects a male-female understanding of sex and instead teaches social workers, children, and families to proactively affirm, meaning to validate, support, and embrace gender ideology. This is
it's all over the schools too. In this area, in public schools, it's everywhere. Like this ideology of affirming children. I mean, it's happening in the education system all over Maryland.
Wow.
How sick do you have to be to deprive a child of the brief period of childhood that they have? Mm-hmm. People figure out what they want to do in terms of preferences and sexuality. They have been figuring that out since the beginning of time. Okay. There's no reason to believe that will not continue. People will decide who they want to be at the appropriate age. And the appropriate age is not in grade school. This is a sick ideology. And I think people should step back. Think about all the things you wanted to be as a child, right? Okay, you're exploring the world. I swear to you, I don't know about these new generation, but at the ages where they have these kids in these drag queen story hours, all I cared about was G.I. Joe, Superman, and the Transformers. Okay.
Right.
I think, and that is why the East is ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
These Eastern cultures, what they're experiencing now in terms of being outside of superpower status is a temporary thing because they've had it before. Okay, these are 1,000-year-old cultures we're dealing with in China and Russia and India. Okay, and they are by and large rejecting this decadence that we are adopting. I could go on, but it's just so sick to deprive a child of their childhood.
It's
That's
sick.
true. Yeah, that's true, Tyrone. What the East, countries in the East, the leaders, they're using this. What is happening in America, they're using this to rally people against the West. When, we used to have more of a people, even in the East, people were reaching towards the West. We wanted to be more westernized, and the West was something that we wanted to emulate. But because of these, specifically these transgender and LGBTQ ideologies, that is what is separating now the East and the West, because they don't want anything to do with it.
Wow. Yeah, it's a weakening of America. We have been the Democrats have been trying to weaken us, not only as far as militarily, but we see it within the education system. They're trying to weaken us. These children are not as smart as generations in the past. They're weakening them psychologically with this type of nonsense. It's across the board. It is a sickness that they are trying to push, and we know why, because they want chaos. They want us weak, and they want to fuel chaos within our country so that they can push forward a new world order, a new global government, and a totally different type of government. So we know this is what it is, and we have to continue to call it out. But my heart goes out to people like this. And I encourage you all to do research on this. Prince George's County, Maryland, autistic child was they tried to take them and put them in child protective services. They had no idea what was going on.
And that's the thing.
I was going to say, for this one child, in this case, this child was autistic. But if you look at many of the cases that I've read about, many of these children, or a number of them, have some kind of troubled, some family dynamics going on. There may have been divorce, things like that, custody issues. So they're caught in the middle of not just their human growth and development normally, but they're caught in the middle of social and family dynamics as well. So not only is the government, CPS, taking them, the medical institutions are not thin enough for them. They are actually I don't know what's the word I want to say, coming at them at a time when they're even more vulnerable.
Right. Yeah, this is what predators do. If you watch any documentary on child molesters, child abusers, these nuts, this is what they do. They prey on children who are going through life changes, who are having issues, because they know that they are more susceptible to this kind of stuff.
And also children that are autistic. Actually, it's been noted that a lot of these autistic children, autistic people, because they don't necessarily see the world, or they don't fit into the world exactly like, I guess, the normal population, they're very vulnerable to this idea of, you're really gender fluid, and there's no such thing as gender, or like there's no such thing as sex, and you can pick whatever gender you are. And because they are a little bit different, but that is such an awful thing, to prey upon someone who is different, who has maybe neurological difference from other people, and to push this ideology, and then possibly have them take hormones and do surgeries and mutilate their body, when you just need to guide them towards activities and things that children should be involved in, and not be thinking about, their gender or sexuality.
Yeah,
the left always attempts to castigate those of us on the right, more conservative circles. Oh, you're science deniers, but they project. Okay. Yeah. The fact of the matter is the prefrontal cortex does not mature fully until the age of 25. That's hardcore neurological science. So how can you encourage a child to go out and make permanent decisions before they even get out of their teens? Okay, so that is a rejection of science. Okay, and when you reject science and you say, oh no, I'm going to put that over here and I'm going to ignore it, then you're engaged in something that definitely does not have the best interest of these children at heart.